Hi, Rod. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you for joining us in this virtual chat room for the Jaxsta live stream. I appreciate it. It's great to see you.
It's a pleasure. Great to be here.
I can see a screen behind you. There's maybe a speaker over. There we are. So are you in your studio?
Yes, yes, just my home studio space, and got some Himalayan salt lamps and candles and things just to get in the vibe.
Right. Does that help? Does that what actually have you got there? The candles and how did you sort
There,
of
yeah, there's a salt lamp there. There are some plants on that side and a candle on that side. So just a few things to make it a bit
uh,
nicer.
have you been producing this morning, or have you been how has your morning gone so far?
I had a podcast recording this morning.
Right.
I was recording with a audio post-production engineer over in North Carolina in the US.
How did that go?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. So I was on your side of the conversation. Yeah, so it's great just hearing about her experience in the industry and a few kind of bits of wisdom that she had to share with us. Yeah, so it was great.
That's the Music Production for Women podcast.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you actually split your time? Because you're an artist yourself, and obviously a producer, and then you founded Music Production for Women. How do you figure out, like, how do you divide your time and make sure you're dedicating the time you want to your artistry as well as running a business and being a producer?
Yeah. To be very honest with you, Rod, I haven't really worked it out that well.
Right.
It's a challenge. I think any time when you do something like music production for women, I mean, it takes up such a huge amount of my time, and you're spending so much time in on the computer and on the software and things, teaching people, and it cannot be the most inviting thing to kind of sit with that outside of the time. So
Right.
what you won't see over there is a bit of my knitting that I've been doing, which is kind of my switch off time. Yeah, it's something that I have to probably get a little bit better at. But I think at the moment, um, it's just how it is. The MPW just needs pretty much most of my time. So that's okay. And once that gets to a point where I can take a little bit of time off, then I really look forward to kind of getting stuck into my music as well.
Yeah, nice. And just talking quickly about your music, and I guess your path into becoming a producer and founding music production for women as well. I understand your grandmother was quite influential in you becoming a singer. Is that correct? She taught you how to sing Indian Carnatic music, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. Traditional Indian Carnatic music is from the south of India, and it's something that I grew up with, and it's a really unique style of music because in traditional, well, in Western music, there's clear kind of differences between notes. You know, you go from a C to a C sharp to a D or whatever it is, but in Carnatic music, there's microtones, so every kind of one note to another is sort of linked, and it's just really beautiful and unique. And I always loved it, so I kind of got into it through that, and then kind of got into the normal Western singing that you get into as kind of growing up in Australia and things. And yeah, so it started there for me.
Was it always, even when you were getting into the Western singing, when you're in Australia, was it always just still in your psyche or in your head that kind of what you just mentioned there about that tonal, the tonal music, the Indian Carnatic music, and that influence?
Yeah, oh, it's funny you say that because I think it just was like even when I try not to do it, I just do it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just so ingrained in me and like how I make music that even people say, has this song got like a bit of an Indian influence? And I was like, no, like that, I definitely did not have that in mind, but people sort of pick that up. So I don't know. I think it's just the way I sing or something just has a bit of that. Yeah.
Well, because I was going to say with the song like Hover, to my ears, I can hear that sort of influence in there, but are you perhaps not so conscious of that?
No, like to me, that's like the most pop song I've ever written.
Right.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that.
So you started writing songs at 12. Why?
Um, so I went to a high school in north of Melbourne called Thomastown Secondary, and there the music program people seem to really get into it. Like there were a lot of people from like immigrant families and a lot of people from like the Pacific Islands and things, and like I feel like everyone brought their own musical style to the school, and so you know, I don't know if anyone's listening, but like probably wasn't the most academic school in the world, but the music program itself was really great. Like we had lots of people really take interest in it. And yeah, I was doing the music class there, and the teacher asked us to write a song, and I did that just because to see if I could, and then he asked people to kind of present it, but I never presented it at all because I was just too scared and too shy. But it sort of started from that class, and people kind of for me seeing people doing that around me, but it took me a while to finally start showing people what I was making. Yeah.
I was going to say, when was that moment that you felt comfortable, and what was it like?
Yeah, so actually the first time I sang in front of people was again in that school. We had, when Australian Idol first started becoming a thing, it was called Thomastown Idol. And
Right.
so we had a kind of competition in the school, and I decided I was going to enroll myself into that. And I still remember that moment. It's one of those times where, you know, you can go back to that really easily. I was just in this in this big room or auditorium, whatever. And then they called out my name, next person, come to the stage. And then I was just, my whole body was shaking and I was just freaking out. But then eventually got onto the stage and I just started singing, and I guess any performer, after a little while you just kind of get into it, and the crowd sort of fades away. And yeah, and then after that, like I remember my peers that I thought, were much cooler than me, but they came up to me and said, "Oh, that was amazing. Like, I want to be your manager," and all this stuff. And it just gave me such a boost in confidence. And I think that was the first time that I thought, maybe there is something here for me. And before that, it was always my family saying, "Oh, you have a great voice," but you never believe anything that your family says growing up. But yeah, I guess it was from that moment where I first started getting on stage and presenting songs that I'd written myself.
Nice. And I presume production probably isn't in your orbit at this point. You're still very much focused on at least just even learning to perform on stage.
Yes, we started with a all-girl band. I forget what we were called, the Sweet Jams or something like that. And we were so bad. but it's like where everything sort of starts. So I was the guitarist and the singer in the band. And yeah, we were just playing kind of covers and things, and a couple of my originals. And then at the time, a couple of my friends, started producing at the same time. So we were friends, and then we just slowly, they said, should I produce something that you made? And I was keen to sing on something that they made or whatever. And it sort of started from there. And it was funny because pretty much from the start, I was also producing and like making my own demos, but it was always a thing that I was like, oh, I'll just make a little thing so that they know what I'm going for. and then I'll hand it off to the people who, I don't know why, in my mind was like, know what they're doing more than I do, even though we all started like at the same time. So maybe they had a few months more experience, but yeah, so I slowly got into it, and then I put it away for a long time, and then it took me a while to get back into it.
And is that what you're just talking then about, I guess, not having the confidence to go, well, I've produced this myself, but instead sort of passing it on to someone else? Is that one of the things that you try to address in music production for women? Because confidence is such a big thing, I imagine. Is that what you try and instill in some of your members and some people who are interested in music production for women?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, it's such a huge, huge part. And we recently, for music production for women, just moved to like a 1 year kind of model, and we spend almost a month of the year just looking at things like confidence, your mindset, you know, what are you thinking? Because the biggest barriers that I find with our students are just mental ones of like, you know, what if I'm not good enough, or what if it's just sounds terrible, or like I just, you know, I'm not techie, so I can't do this. So I realized, for me, you know, it was a really important part to address. I thought if we just go straight into the technical stuff, if all of that mental noise is just there for you, then you know, are we even teaching you anything if that's just being pushed down by these insecurities?
Yeah. So how did you overcome those insecurities in the first place?
Well, I mean, from a production perspective, it was because I felt like I had no other choice, really, because I thought if I keep working with these other producers, and it started from that high school time, you know, it never really ended well. And I don't know, you know, actually I was going to say, I don't know if that was me, but I'm not going to say that anymore, because I know there are enough of these stories that it's not, we tend to take the blame. But just from kind of dealing with enough of those situations, I was thinking, to keep doing this myself, I need to start producing for myself, because I can't rely on other people to do that for me. So I still had all these, you know, mental challenges to get through, but I thought, if I don't do this, then I just need to stop making music, and that wasn't really an option. So yeah, just had to push through it, and you know, I never saw myself as a techie person. So which is why I keep saying to our students, like, honestly, if I can do it, then you can do it too.
What do you think was the biggest thing beyond the confidence, but in terms of being able to instill in people that they can do it? What do you think is the biggest thing, that the biggest message you can get across in terms of trying to demystify what production is, or what all these different sort of software programs are, or what the knobs on the mixing desk are, if people still use that? How do you even figure out, all right, beyond the confidence thing, this is where I'm going to start, just to demystify and break that whole process down?
Yeah. So I think if you look at it from a overall perspective of, like, you know, you need to have all the skills to turn this song that you've written on a piece of paper into this fully produced thing. As someone who knows nothing about it, that can be really overwhelming, because you're thinking, I don't know how to do any of this, you know, and there's so much to it. So I think breaking it down as much as possible to really small steps, and being really practical about how that's taught as well, and just showing people, okay, we're gonna just look at this one little element today, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that, and you can just follow along with exactly what we're doing, and then if you do that a few times, it'll slowly start sinking in. But don't worry about all of the rest right now, but let's just break it down into these little chunks, and slowly you'll find that it kind of comes together, and they're all just tools at the end of the day, you know. And if someone shows you how to use them, then then you can do it too.
Yeah. Did you have anyone showing you or anyone teaching you that it was just step by step, or did you just have to figure it all out yourself?
I didn't have a person to kind of talk to, but I did have a few friends, which I'm really grateful for, that I asked a few burning questions. And you know, you don't want to be that person that every time you see them, you're just like bombarding them with questions. So I tried to use that a bit sparingly. And obviously YouTube is a really good resource, but it can be a double-edged sword where some parts of it you can just be a bit too overwhelmed and then just decide this is too much.
Right.
But there were also a few forums that I went to, like the Ableton user group in Melbourne is a pretty active one. And that was good to just see how other people were breaking down their sessions and things. It was also a bit overwhelming at the start. But I think having these couple of kind of communities that you go to that you feel comfortable in is really important.
Yeah. So 2019 comes around, and I believe that's when music production for women started. What was the first step? Because you were working in an accounting firm at that point, is that right? And you just took the big leap?
Yes, well, yeah, I think 2018 was when I was working in the accounting firm,
Okay.
and then I decided to just quit that and decide to move all the way in the other side to the other side of the world in the UK.
Right.
And there I was like, I'm going to make something work with my music. And then I started working in accounting, but in a media company, so it was a little bit different. And then I just had this, oh, thank you, Ellie. I just had this idea in my head for a while for music production for women. And I was thinking, you know, this would have really helped me to get started. And it was on my mind for a little while. And then, I mean, very, very unfortunately, one of my really close friends passed away very suddenly. And it, you know, whenever these kind of things happen, it's just a huge wake up call, and you're thinking, you know, I want to do this in 5 years' time, and you think you might not have that, you know. So if you want to do something, now is the time. So then a few weeks later, I spoke to my boss and I was like, look, this is something I really want to do. If I don't do it now, I don't know when I will do it. So I'm going to leave. And I think when you say it like that as well, like no one can hold it against you or you know. So he was like, look, it sounds like it's something that you feel really passionate about, so go for it.
Wow.
And then, yeah, so quit that, left on Friday, and then Monday morning I set up to start MPW. Like, you know, like it was a quick thing. I'll just start it now and get it done. Oh my God. Little did I know what I was getting myself into.
And start. You had the name at that point? Like, even on a really basic level, you've got the name, you have to get a web server. Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, well, good question. I didn't know. You know, I will say that I always had an interest in small business before this, and I used to go to a lot of small business events, and I wasn't really sure why I was there because I didn't have a business at the time. So I had picked up on a couple of things that people had spoken about through there. And someone had said, you know, for Google SEO, just make your name something that people are going to put into Google rather than some fancy, like, you know, name that doesn't actually mean anything. So I just said music production for women. And there was a bit of hesitation around that name as well, because I thought there were going to be a lot of people that would have a problem with that. And there were, actually. There were lots of comments that I used to get when I first started of, you know, why is this for women? This is such discrimination, and like we don't, often from women, you know, saying like, yeah, you know, we don't need something different, or we have the same brain. I don't know. And it, what's that?
Were you expecting that, or was that a surprise?
Um, yeah, I was kind of thinking that might be a thing with having a name like that. And there were times where I was thinking, oh, this is too much. Like I'm trying to help people and I'm actually getting abused for it. Yeah, Tara, hello. Yeah, and I just wasn't, yeah, at that point I was thinking, why am I doing this? But anyway, I decided to stick with the name. And then there were some people that would find it and think, you know, I'm so happy this account exists and, you know, we need this, and be really encouraging about it as well. Yeah, it can be challenging to get the name right for sure.
Yes.
And then I didn't register it, but I did create a Instagram account, I think, and a Facebook account, and then got the domain name registered. But then, oh, I don't know if anyone's kind of set up a website from the start, but like, oh, there's so many things like DNS servers pointing to this and that, and email pop, like, I don't even know what. But
Right.
all of these things, you know, I think I was completely ignorant at the time.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a good thing, because now if I knew everything that I had to do, I probably wouldn't have started at all. But yes, so much involved. Like I've become a website developer, a marketing specialist, a social media person, you know, a support engineer. I don't know, like all things in one, which I was not expecting. I just wanted to help women start producing music.
That's right.
But it's just happened that way.
Got all those logistical things to take care of before you even get into the music production side of things. As you were coming to terms with all that, were you also developing, I don't know if syllabus is too formal a word, but were you developing a structure in your head about how this would work? Did you even have the headspace to get into that while you were also dealing with all this other stuff?
Yes, so I did come up with a bit of a, you know, just mapped out the course of what I wished was all in one place, right from the very basics of you open a production software, what exactly are you looking at? Because it can just be the first thing you look like, it looks like a kind of spaceship that you're looking at. So, you know, what are you looking at firstly, and then going into all the basic details and building from there. So I did map out what that was going to look like, and I gave myself a week to record each module.
A week?
And a week, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took me a little bit longer than that. And the first kind of 5-minute video, I think, took me about 5 hours to record.
Right.
It was ridiculous. And I think I was in tears by the end of it. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. If every single video is going to take me a day. But then, like with anything, you know, you get faster and things don't become as difficult. So I was kind of doing that course creation alongside setting up the website and things. Yeah.
Do you remember the first moment that someone interacted with you in terms of showing interest in what you were doing and actually asking for your assistance?
Yes. Oh my God. I remember that exact moment. I think I had put up our Intro to Music Production course for $9.99 or something on a Facebook ad. And the first person that bought it, like, I reckon for about 15 minutes, I was just jumping around the house, like, with just so much joy of, oh, this is the best thing ever. I just earned $10 and spent like 3 months setting this thing up. Yeah, so I do remember that moment. It was beautiful.
How long did it take for the community to find you and for you to find your community?
Oh, you know, we're 3.5 years in, and I think we're still doing that.
Yeah.
But no, it's grown, you know, COVID was a growth time for us, and we were probably 5,000 followers or so on Instagram before then, and now we're kind of 14,000, and everything else has grown sort of in that proportion as well, like with our members and our students, and so yeah, so I guess we do have a strong community, and that's a huge part of MPW for me, is for people to never feel alone in their journey, and for them to know that, you know, they can just send us a message or send us an email, or obviously if they're a student, then we can help them even more. But, you know, we are there for them if they need.
Yeah. Do you ever get to log off?
I've become better at that. Yeah, 3 years in, and I've become a bit better at that. The first, I think, 6 months, I didn't switch off, and I was just so stressed. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, you feel like there's no one tells you to stop working, so you feel like you shouldn't. And you're like, especially when you quit everything and you start this thing from zero. I don't know if I'd recommend anyone to do that, because I was just watching my bank balance just dropping and dropping and thinking, oh my God, like I need to survive. And yeah, and I was thinking, you know, the more time I put into this, the quicker it's going to kind of get me to that point. But it's surprisingly not the case, you know. Sometimes if you take a break, you're going to be more productive.
Right.
So I've definitely gotten better at that. And now, like, I've turned off all the notifications on my phone. I was like, no email needs a 2-minute response time, you know, like we'll get back to them within 24 hours, and that's fine. And I try to take off weekends as much as possible. And we've got some help now with some great people kind of working with us, which I'm so grateful for, which has hugely helped as well. But I think everyone just has to go through that. I think every freelancer or person that starts a business has probably gone through that phase at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you find is the key kind of information that people come to you for? Like, is there a common sort of thing that you find that when women are approaching you, that there are sort of really key things that they all seem to want? Or what kind of information are you asked for more than any other?
I think there is this theme of like just wanting to be in control of their own music, rather than having someone else calling the shots. So just to have the skills, even if it's not to fully produce their music, to have the vocabulary if they're going to talk to someone else, that they have an equal footing, and it's not like they're just coming in blind and kind of going to someone else to do something for them. So there's a lot about that control, and also you know, it's an overused term, but it's true, just a kind of safe space to learn as well. And I've heard just a crazy number of stories of just things that you don't really want to hear about, but you know, it's just a reality, unfortunately, in the industry at the moment. So I have to also kind of distance myself from that a little bit, because I used to get really involved in people's stories and their trauma, and I've got my own, you know, from my time working with certain people, but just to support them as best I can, and also not just kind of dive into their own issues that they've had before.
Yeah, all these things that you've had to do or had to come to terms with or had to figure out how to navigate, I bet you that none of them occurred to you when you were starting. Like, what an incredible learning curve, and a steep learning curve.
Oh my God. Yeah, if anyone wants to learn really, really quickly, just start a business. Yeah, just, you know, you will learn everything all at once, be overwhelmed all the time, and just have to you have to deal with it. You know, what else are you going to do? There's no one to turn to. There's no one to, yeah, to kind of ask certain questions from. A lot of your friends don't know or understand what you're doing and still don't. So yeah, definitely very steep learning curve. And I didn't know any of this would be required of me.
Sure. Sure. Are you seeing or are you sensing the mix of female involvement in the recording industry increase somewhat, or are you still, I mean, clearly there is still that huge disparity between male and female involvement, but are you starting to see any sort of steps in the right direction at all?
Yeah, look, I think there are steps in the right direction, and I also feel like I'm probably not the best person to judge that, because in the scheme of things, I haven't been around in the music tech side of things for as long as some people have, and I think I only understood how deep the issue was and everything in the last sort of 3 years since I started MPW. Before that, it was only my own private experience of what I had dealt with before. So I think any time before that, now I'm learning through other people that we have in our community and in the wider space, how deep the issue was and how much worse it was, you know, 10, 20 years ago. So I think definitely it's moving in the right direction. And, you know, it's a bit slow, but any movement is better than no movement at all.
Sure. So what's next for music production for women? Like what are you excited about in terms of what the rest of this year holds in store, or any things that you might have coming up even further afield?
Yeah. So the next thing that I'm really excited and also really overwhelmed about, because this is what I do for myself, is the biggest sort of live event that we've ever organised before in London in July, on the 16th of July. So there's a link in our bio, and it's going to be a full day free event of lots of different engineers, producers. We have, you know, music PR people just doing workshops for independent artists, and we've been really lucky to have support from our you know, partners, which is DistroKid, Sonox, Sound, Song Trust, Ableton, to help us put on the event. And yeah, I'm really excited about that, because it's the first live interaction for us in a long time, and definitely
Wow.
to this scale.
How long's that taken to pull together?
I probably started working on it maybe 2 months ago, so not a huge amount of time. But yeah, this is just how I like to work. Is I have an idea and I was like, right, okay, we're going to get it done. So my team probably aren't the most thrilled with my approach, but they support me anyway.
One thing we touched on at the beginning, which Ali just asked in the comments, was, has your priorities for songwriting and artistry for yourself, have they had to take a back seat throughout all this music production for women as you've been building this organization? And I presume that that's probably been the case.
Yes, that has been the case. So my own music making has taken a back seat, and I think at first that used to upset me a little bit, because obviously, you know, why I got into this was because I loved making music. But I think you just have to accept things for what they are at the moment and think, okay, if this is what needs my time right now, then I'll just kind of focus on that for a little bit, rather than making yourself feel bad for not, you know, working on music or whatever it is. And just think, okay, that's how it is now, and I will work out how I want things to be in the future, and see how can I slowly work towards that. So yeah, the ideal state would be for me to for my team to take on more responsibility, and then me to slowly take a little less on, so that I can go back to making music.
when you finally get to that point, you're probably going to have all this, just this enormous well of ideas that have just been building up, even subconsciously, and then boom, they'll hope, you know, they'll come out, which will be amazing.
Hopefully.
Xylo, we just got one question in the... No, it was a request to join. I beg your pardon. Look, Xylo, thank you so much for your time. It's been so great to chat with you, and best of luck for this huge event coming up in London. That sounds very exciting. So thank you for that, and congratulations on music production for women and all you're achieving there. It's incredible.
Thanks so much, Rod. Thanks for having me. It's been lovely to chat to you today.
You too. All right, take care. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.